Okay, let's get started. Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Amit Tiwari, and welcome to today's webinar on unlocking the future of automation with Agentic AI. And our objective would be to walk you through what UiPath as a platform offers with the Agentic AI and showcase some of the demonstration around the SAP use cases, whereas how that whole philosophical change on agentic AI would impact your process design and solution design for the automation in future. And we'll cover those in our demo slides later. But I'm Amit Tiwari. I am Vice President Technology at TSP, been in industry for like 23 plus years and very closely working with UiPath on some of the automation and probably agentic automation now. Omar?
Yeah, thanks, Amit. Hi, everyone. My name is Omar Sharkwi, and I'm a Senior Technical Partner Manager here at UiPath. Been here for almost 4 years now, and in my role, I really work closely with partners like TSP and the product teams from UiPath to make sure that we're evangelizing and rolling out our most advanced Gen AI capabilities like, comms mining, and more recently, Autopilot, Agent Builder, Agentic Orchestration, all stuff we're going to dive into today to make sure that you're all well equipped to leverage these capabilities in the new world of agentic automation. Excited to be here today with the TSP crew. And on to you, Ross.
Thanks, Omar, and hello, everybody. My name is Ross Bentley. I'm a practice director of automation at the Silicon Partners, working with Amit, based in Phoenix. I'm a career quality assurance and automation professional who's been working with clients to deliver quality savings and efficiencies through automation for a long time now. I am also excited about what the future holds and what we're going to be looking at in terms of agentic AI and how it impacts our automation deliverables. And so thank you for joining us today. Amit, back to you.
Thank you, Mar, and thank you, Ross. So we'll quickly jump on the agenda, what we'll be covering today. So, definitely we covered the introductions. The next thing which we want to look at is the evolution of the agentic automation. How it drive from start to the agentic level, and what has the journey look like, right? And what, not only the journey, but also what exactly has changed into the process, which is seeing these transformation on the industry. Omar will go over agentic AI with UiPath, so he will introduce that whole platform of agentic AI, which is offered by UiPath. And then we'll switch over to some of the agentic based SAP use case demonstration and showing you how an agent and robot and human can collaborate together and work together. This is not only changing the ability of doing the agentic automation, but the future of test automation would also be changing, and probably that's what we are also very excited to talk about and touch base quickly. But how the future of test automation can change with adoption of the agentic testing, we'll talk about that as well, and then probably we'll wrap up quickly with Q&A and probably answer your questions around it. But feel free to put your question on Q&A. We'll continue to answer, and probably after every segment, maybe we can answer a few questions for you. So first and foremost important thing is like evolution of the agentic AI automation. And this is very important to understand the journey, whereas we all have seen the process automation happening in kind of last 23 plus years with many different ways. With the robotic process automation, which was introduced approximately 8-9 years ago with the platforms like UiPath and many others, that changed the behavior and ability how we are able to inbuild the automation into our bigger processes, which is around the multiple enterprise applications, starting from your SAP or Salesforce or Workday or many other applications around it, right? So the robotic process automation changed that behavior, and we have seen that, whereas how it was able to take our rule-based workflows and transformed into end-to-end process automation, whereas removing and eliminating your manual and mundane tasks, and probably very I would say, step-by-step closed-loop task, which we were able to process automate through that robotic process automation approach. After that, when we were able to do those initial process automation, I mean, there was supervised learning, which is kind of your all the OCRing, the unstructured document processing, and probably ID cards and many other documents. Whereas how do we? I mean, that question came in, and that's where like supervised learning came into picture. Whereas we are in addition to the robotic process automation, we are also able to understand those unstructured document, extract the information from those, but and also able to process it. But the limitation was they require a lot of training, labeling of the documentation, and then those models are not very adaptive. They are more of a fixed, whatever structure has been defined to understand that model and probably process it from there, right? Then the next evolution, which has been recently, was the agentic AI, and I think everyone is very much familiar about it. I mean, if you talk about ChatGPT or other toolset around it, whereas it has taken with the large language models, AI begin to respond to the prompts and contextual information, and showcasing a higher level of understanding and interaction. And that has completely changed how, I mean, we have seen many examples, whereas people are able to now write emails or write create presentation, solve papers, and many other things, which is it is helping in the background and with those large language models. The next shift was, I mean, and that also was kind of limited to, whereas it is looking at everything which is available on the internet and probably trying to solve the problem. But the bigger challenge for the industries are, whereas I have my own industry process, I have my own data set, I have my own process understanding, right? And I have my own customer base which shares the information and the process. So how does that solve this problem of kind of my own, right? And that is where the evolution of agentic AI happens, and it's at the pinnacle of the evolution of agentic AI, which is combining the experience of the generative AI with automation and creating an autonomous agents equipped with memory. So having an agent, I mean, earlier the robots did not have memory; they had task-based process which they kind of follow through and complete. But now understand that this anonymous agent with agentic AI has its own memory, whereas it is able to process the information and also take decision on the fly, not being reactive, but become more proactive in kind of solving these problems, right? So that's the era of shift with agentic AI has happened. But this evolution marks a significant shift in AI capabilities, whereas agentic AI is representing a new era of AI system, whereas it will change how we are engaging and working to solve any process design or solution design or end-to-end process optimization, or even kind of deep thinking around the decision-making part of it, right? So that is changing in a big way. And this transformation is not just technological, whereas like previously we have seen things have changed on technological side, but this is more philosophical, because it is reshaping our approach of thinking. It is reshaping our approach of interacting between human and machine collaboration. And that's one part. But the second part is the adoption would become really important in future with this approach, because with the new workforce which will be coming in the future, I mean, they will not have the ability to work the way kind of things have been on the legacy side being worked in the industry, right? And they have already adopted with the new kind of technology available in the market, and how they know how to work with those. So in order to equip your workforce in the future also, these adoptions become really important. And that is what we are here to show you kind of with some of the examples. But I'll pass it on to Omar for introduce UiPath as a platform.
Thanks, Amit, for the great intro and for setting the stage. Now we're going to talk a bit about agentic AI and agentic automation with UiPath. But before we do that, I just want to make sure that we first understand our journey to agentic automation as a company. So before the rise of agentic AI and subsequently, agentic automation, the UiPath platform has incorporated advanced AI capabilities from the early days, from computer vision to IDP and comms mining leveraging NLP, And now we're incorporating our UiPath LLMs like DocPath and CompPath, in addition to third-party LLMs, to really facilitate agentic automation. So this shift right that we see from focusing on activities to facilitating workflow automation, and now we're talking about process level agentic automation, really mirrors the evolution of AI as a whole that Emmett referred to earlier. So this is not anything new to UiPath. We're simply just now positioning ourselves as the platform for this new world with the availability of agentic AI capabilities that will enable you to do a lot more with what you have. So obviously, agentic automation is a key focus for the platform and our product vision and strategy. I just want to cover some key definitions first, so that we can understand how they tie back to UiPath's product strategy and the agentic roadmap that we see. So the term agentic AI and agentization is really an umbrella term that refers to a number of different techniques. An agent acting as a planner, breaking down complex problems into smaller steps with multiple LLMs working together to carry out specialized tasks. That is agentization. The ability for LLMs to use tools to give them additional capabilities, like function calling, that is also something that is referred to as agentization. It also refers to the agent environment in which agents can collaborate together to achieve an end goal. And the concept of an agent having autonomy or agency beyond just responding to a simple prompt, like having memory, as Emmett mentioned earlier. So UiPath now provides enterprise agents, and that is really a special kind of agent that can reliably act independently to make dynamic decisions within the confines of an end-to-end workflow to increase the trust of the agent. Agentic orchestration is another key component. And this is really the ability to orchestrate robots, agents, and humans across many agentic workflows. And agentic automation is the concept of combining industry-leading AI, automation, and orchestration so that you can achieve consistent enterprise, business results. And of course, this is all supported by UiPath's Trusted Cloud, which gives you enterprise-grade governance. So this is a question that I get a lot. Like, what is the difference between a robot and an agent? And it seems like a simple question, but it's really important to understand the difference so that you can leverage the unique capabilities of each, in your workflows. So simply put, in a workflow, robots will continue to do what they do very well. They're going to follow rules, they're going to execute tasks in a highly predictable and deterministic way. That's what they've been doing for years, and they're going to continue to fill that role. On the other hand, now we have, the concept of an agent that has AI skills and enables them to communicate with a human in natural language, plan out the steps to accomplish a task, and coordinate with other robots and agents for process level outcomes. So these agents are not rule following in the sense that robots are. Really, they are goal seeking. The point of an agent is that you give it goals and not tasks. And the agents are constantly trying to achieve these goals, and to do it, they're acting independently and take dynamic decisions to reach the outcome that they, were given and the goal that they are supposed to achieve. So in agentic automation, we leverage robots and agents and combine their strengths to deliver the best of both worlds for the enterprise. And to further clarify, the difference, it's really important to maybe touch on the concept of trust principles. So here we have, an X and Y axis. On the Y axis, we have the application reliability. And on the X axis, we have the agent's level of control. Not surprisingly, robots are super deterministic. They're really reliable, really up there on the Y axis, but they have very little autonomy. They're going to do only what you tell them to do. Like, it's all rule based. And then we have, autonomous agents. They're completely autonomous. They have agency, but the outcome is super unreliable. And this is really the dilemma. Like, to increase autonomy, are we always going to have to sacrifice, the reliability of the outcome? And this is the question that's always top of mind for every C-suite executive out there. So because of the importance of that, this is something that we're working on daily at UiPath. We're bending that curve so that the trust in agents is increased. Like, really, the more we move up that Y-axis, the more you trust the agent. And the way that we're doing this is called controlled agency. So when I mentioned enterprise agents earlier, these trusted agents, that we are providing through UiPath are agents that have built-in mechanisms called controlled agency to make sure that you get agents that you can trust. So you can control the level of autonomy that an agent has by bounding it with deterministic robots and also high quality context grounding, your own enterprise context for the retrieval augmented generation based on your own context and your own, industry needs and your own policies. And then the enterprise agents can also use tools to get the job done. So they can use automations as tools from the UiPath platform, or they can even use other agents in addition to the hundreds of integrations and activities that we have available for UI and API automation. So these mechanisms and guardrails that we call controlled agency allow us to create agents that can truly be trusted in enterprise context. Now, where does an enterprise agent fit in agentic automation? Some important guidelines that we provide, from our product teams and from industry experts is that ad hoc tasks is really not where you want to live. This is not made for ad hoc automation. You want to focus on impacting processes and repeatable workloads. We're also not about personal productivity. There's a lot of buzz out there about computer use and Anthropic and stuff for personal productivity. That's not where we're going. Our agents are designed to work with your enterprise tools to tackle real world business problems. And generally speaking, general agents lack accuracy. Like the more you ask an LLM to do in a prompt, the more confused it gets and the more diluted the answer will get. So we recommend creating multiple narrowly scoped specialized agents, and that will be the key for true, consistent and trusted agentic automation. Something else is supervised versus, controlled agency. So supervised agents like copilots are super helpful, and it's an entry point for automation and agentic automation. But we enable customers to move from fully supervised to fully autonomous agents by applying controlled agency and agentic orchestration. And we're going to take a look at how that looks later in the platform. And then lastly, worth noting here, there's a bit of a misconception that agents are these magical entities that, can encompass an entire workflow and can do everything from A to Z. But in reality, the agent should be part of the workflow and not the entire workflow. So we have a workflow and we have a workflow engine, and agents can execute right in those workflows alongside human workers and robots to achieve the goals that you want consistently and reliably. Now, with that, I hope we have a better understanding of what we mean by enterprise agents. But the key challenges in achieving your business outcomes, are still going to need to be addressed, from process complexity to limited visibility to, getting that feedback loop to understand where you can incorporate more agentic AI capabilities and how to streamline operations and how to optimize things. We can't really just expect to plug in an agent into a complex process and let it figure everything out on its own. And this is a quote from McKinsey that I really, really like because it so succinctly describes the problem and the solution. It's not much about how it's the pieces themselves, it's about how the pieces fit together. So you have all these different pieces, you have complex processes, but really everything can be worked out if you just figure out how to orchestrate at scale effectively. Every use case is going to be a little bit different and is going to require different, vector databases, prompt libraries, applications, even agents. But if you have the right orchestration mechanism, it makes things ultimately easier because you have the ability to see how things are working together and make, decisions that can be scalable and impact many workflows as you're approaching this agentic automation world. So our new process orchestration service is called Maestro, and UiPath Maestro is really built from the ground up to orchestrate robots, agents, and people. It's essentially the brains behind agentic operations at scale. So this fits into the broader intelligent automation ecosystem as the layer of coordination that coordinates everything. It brings together LLM-based agents, your classic RPA robots and people into a unified process and end-to-end workflow. So Maestro enables customers to do things like model, implement, operate, and even monitor their long-running workflows and processes while managing them effectively at scale. And worth noting also that through agentic orchestration, you don't only have access to leverage UiPath agents, but you're going to be able to use agents from third-party, providers like Pro AI, LangGraph, Agentforce, ServiceNow, SAP, and a lot more. As every vendor out there produces their own agents, the dilemma is how to make sure that they're all working together and are orchestrated in an efficient way. And Maestro is going to facilitate that for you. So really, as we're narrowing the view here, agentic orchestration brings together these four key investment areas for the enterprise, from process management to automation to agentic AI and also process intelligence. And with Maestro and agentic orchestration, we can help you orchestrate that end-to-end process across your employees, agents, and robots. But one of the main benefits is that this also happens within the UiPath platform. So agents can now use all the activities in the platform to execute as workflows. And because the agents are only as good as the tools that you give them, that's why we have an activities layer that's super crucial here. So here we have tools like, our UI and API automation, IDP, where you can fine tune models to extract data from a contract or, measure its accuracy down to the field level. And now that we've talked about all the different components and, brought it back to the platform, I just want to show you an example of how this works together. So here we have a example that should be very familiar to you all. This is a processing vendor invoice workflow in the world before agentic automation. So here we have a invoice created and we have a robot performing the step of two-way matching. Now, today, what happens when there is a mismatch is everything halts. You have to get a human in the loop, and the human has to investigate the dispute, figure out what the inconsistencies are, come to a resolution, and then, the robot will update the ERP system. Now, this same process, with the introduction of agentic AI, it becomes an agentic workflow. So now we have the invoice created, we have the robot doing its part, but when something looks incorrect and you need to have, dispute investigation, here we plug in a dispute investigation agent, which has the context of your own enterprise organization, what the policy documents are, what the requirements are, if an exception happens, what are the rules and guidelines for that? And in the event that it needs to escalate to a human, you can also bring a human in the loop to provide input or review the output of that agent. If nothing requires human intervention, that dispute investigation agent can just forward the data to the dispute resolution agent, which can draft an email, communicate back to the vendor, pull in a human for final review and approval, and then the robot will complete, the flow. So here we get a better understanding of what we mean by narrowly scoped agents that are highly specialized. We could have easily created one agent that does the investigation and resolution, but because you're asking it to do more than one thing, it becomes less specialized and there's more room for error. It's really easy to create a specific agent for the investigation that can always be reliable and consistent, and it learns from the input of the human as it corrects it and provides input, and a resolution agent that follows through and drafts emails, communicates with vendors, also learns what the right language to use in those communications. And you have those evolving side by side in the confines of an end-to-end workflow, giving them controlled agency, which is really limited autonomy. They can figure out things on their own within their lane, but they're not going to veer to the right or to the left. This is exactly what they're designed to do, and they're going to do it efficiently and super well. And this is just a really quick look under the hood of like how this works in an unattended fashion, like we saw. So here we have, a process diagram in BPMN 2.0 notation. That box in the middle of the canvas there that's highlighted in red, that is an agent task. And in that agent task, we have, the properties panel that is opened up on the right side. And you can see all the different things that you provide for that agent to complete the tasks, like what is the activity is going to complete, what are the inputs that it's going to receive, what are the expected outputs from it. So you have a lot of control and granularity as you're creating those agents, and also when you're implementing them for your end-to-end workflows. And this is really just a quick checklist of things of like, what we achieved with this agentic workflow right now. We streamlined the entire process. We orchestrated agents, robots, and humans working together. We crucially enhanced the decision-making and compliance by using AI-assisted analysis for consistency and accuracy. And we also improved the efficiency for the organization by reducing cost and enabling scalability. That BPMN 2.0 diagram, that is something that all business analysts understand, and you can pull them in to achieve further efficiency and optimization. If you figure out that this is not an ideal state and improvements need to be made, it starts from the diagramming, and then the changes trickle in to the workflow, and you can monitor that and optimize it at scale as well. So with this, I hope you can all see how agentic automation really expands the surface area of automation. These are just some example use cases, but there's literally thousands of new automation use cases that are being unlocked every day. And we're learning from you all and from our partners like TSP. So we're looking forward to learning more about what you want to do with agentic AI and how UiPath can support you with that. Now, this concludes my portion, but before I pass it to you, Amit, any questions come up or anything that we want to cover before I pass it on?
Do we see any questions there into the Q&A session, or we can jump
There are
quickly
no
on
questions currently.
Okay, so we can go with the demonstration quickly. And I mean, we'll start with this is one of the process, and okay, sorry. So this is one of the process where our standard process of identifying what is the right GL code should be, and doing the GL posting in the SAP. But the idea is to understand and start from where you have received those invoices, and that has item details, whereas you don't know under which GL should I be posting this. And the part of the whole process, like how we piece together with the concept of agents as well as the robot, that's what we are showing here. So at the start, if you see on the left of the screen, it is starting with the incoming invoices or incoming request of GL posting, which has many items into the list. The agent will review those items, extract that information, and get those item details, and probably reach out to the context and the knowledge base which has been given to the agent. And that knowledge base could be either their kind of a general ledger codes, list of the codes, list of the policies, list of the item and services which are allowed, list of the limitations which has been kind of defined for those GL codes, right? And based off all that information, agent is using the LLM in the background and probably identifying the right GL code in which this item should be posted at. And once the agent complete that part, the second step is like, okay, now I want to post it into the SAP, and that is where agent is shaking hand with the robot, and which is the process automation, robotic process automation, which we do. And that robotic process automation is take the information from agent and launches your SAP ecosystem, and then probably do the GL posting for you, right? So that's kind of showcasing the value of working of agent and human and the robot together. That's what we'll show in this demo. And then probably subsequently continue with like, okay, if the business user want to understand, okay, what is my balance look like under this particular GL code, then I can request the same thing, and probably agent will request that GL code for where it need the balance report. And then the same thing robot will do is like go to the SAP, extract the report and pass it back to the agent. So that's kind of overall process, which we'll be seeing quickly on a demo. And when we are building these agents, I mean, one more thing which Omar, I think, touch base quickly was like, when we are building these agents, I mean, we definitely give the name and description for the agent, but it's very important to give them the context and the system prompts, whereas like what exactly they are supposed to do, what all the information they are looking at. And that is where like when we are kind of writing those LLMs, and you guys are familiar with those very well. These are the prompts which we define for the agent to work with. And then we also define like what does the user prompt look like, whereas it can interact with the user, it can interact with the robots, whereas if they provide those prompts, it can work in the background and process all that information. And then probably how is that knowledge coming? So we define that knowledge base, whereas we give the GL code list to the agent, which could be like anything, multiple PDF documents or multiple Excel documents or multiple Word documents which is had. And then probably the agent will, and any of your policies or limitation document for the organization. So you give all of that. And that's what becomes like the knowledge base and the context for the agent to process the information. And that's what it takes the information from you, review the system prompts, understand the user prompt, and then probably reviews those context grounding, and then kind of response back based on the information. So that's how kind of we create it. But I'll run a quick demo for you to show you. And here, and before I jump on this quickly, wait a second, sorry. Yeah, this is the right screen. Yeah. So majority of us are very much familiar with the Copilot, and this is the UiPath's autopilot, and with the same experience, but more towards how you are able to work within your organization, with your agent, with your automations, and who is overlooking your policy, your specific processes, and also like if I'm a finance person, I'm AP person, then I should be only having access to the agents and the robots which I'm allowed to. So those kind of all role-based configuration being defined for with the UiPath autopilot, and that is where it will execute in under the policy and the compliance of the organization, whereas you are not kind of overlooking things where you don't have access to, but still able to work and process with the similar fashion the way we have seen the Copilot works. And in this example, we'll kind of start with the prompting the so I'm starting with prompting the agent. So I have vendor name and item details, which I retrieve from the invoice which I have, and I need a GL code for that. And what I do is like I request put this prompt to the autopilot, and autopilot reviews internally and says, okay, there is an agent for this, let's use this agent. And whereas agent require you to pass the vendor name, and it also requires you to pass the item details, so that way agent can go back and look at the context, look at the knowledge base, and probably produce you the right GL code, which is reviewing those organization policies, reviewing the limitations, reviewing what is allowed and what is not allowed, right? So based on all of that, it will retrieve the GL code for you. So it is right now working in the background. The agent is working in the background to retrieve all the information, and it is now successfully able to say that, okay, for this GL code, this is and this particular amount range, this is the GL code where your posting should be. And once we complete that posting, it also suggests that in order to do that posting, there is already an automation which does exist into the process. And do you want to use that automations? And the user says, yes, let's run it. So that's where we run it, and which launches the SAP in the background, and which completes your GL posting for that particular item. And it completes that posting, and it reads that confirmation number for GL posting which was generated, and reads that information here that, okay, now your GL posting has been completed for that particular item, right? But now the user wants to understand that, okay, do I have a balance report for that particular GL code which I used here, because I want to make sure that if there is it is going beyond the defined limit, I need to kind of address that or probably work on around it, right? Then the agent, you request with the agent, then agent identifies that, okay, what I need to do to find the GL code for this particular balance for the GL code, and it launches the SAP, goes back to it, extract the report, whereas read the information about the GL code, and it probably produces the result for you for the transaction history, right? So that's in overall kind of completing your process of giving you access on the GL code side. And this is just showing like where the storage bucket we keep some of the policies and other documents. So that was run, whereas a human is working with the autopilot and interacting with the agent and the automation together, and they all three working together to solve a problem. Whereas it is more on attended mode, where you can see a lot of things. But how the same behavior you can experience, whereas and robot is starting the process where it is reviewing the email, it is identifying and extracting information from your email and probably with the invoices. Now it is leveraging in the background the agent to give the GL code, and the GL code is being passed back to the robot, and then robot is executing in the background everything. And that is where, like when Omar was referencing about the master. So this is the studio of the master, whereas your whole process of the steps are being defined very clearly, how you want to execute it step by step, and how you are integrating your agent and the robots. And not only that, but if you have, if your process require you to work with the Salesforce agent, that you can do that as well, right? I mean, this does allow you that. So kind of complete that process, and this will execute everything in the background. So whereas I mean, we are not even seeing anything, but it is running eventually on the virtual machine and completing that whole process end to end for us. But just kind of showing you like how it will look in the unattended mode. So that was the one of the example on the GL code side. Second example, which is like very popular on the sales order processing, whereas we receive a lot of quotation from the sales, whereas this require approval. And once the approval is complete, either those sales order need to be posted into your CRM system if you are using a say kind of a Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics, or I mean any other CRM from SAP. It completes that process, and then probably for your processing everything on the SAP, because your SAP would require again replication of the sales order. So you will replicate that into the SAP, and then probably your delivery and packaging and invoicing and all that whole step will complete. But in this design, what we are showing is like how the agent and robot again working together to start the process by looking at your email and understand like what are the approval quotation which I have received for Salesforce for a sales order, and then approving those quotation. And after the approval, we'll be requesting robot to go back and kind of extract the information with the document understanding from those sales order, whereas we can have that information, and then probably post that sales order into the SAP system with leveraging the report. So again, similar example, but for a different process, whereas your sales order, sales quotation approval to the posting, right? So we'll quickly see that as well. And again, in this behavior, we are starting with, I mean, showing you that a sales order quotation can be received in the various format, whereas somebody is attaching a document, somebody is keeping it into the email body, somebody is maybe attaching your Excel document for a sales order. So variation of approvals can be received. And that's what we are going to work with the Copilot. So users start with providing the prompting to the autopilot, whereas search for all the emails where quotation approval is requested. And that's what it will do is like it does integrate with identified an agent, and does integrate with the email analyzer. And whereas goes back and reviews your Outlook particular inbox, which agent is requested to monitor, right? And it is reviewing that, and then probably identifying those emails, and probably consolidating the information for us, and probably will momentarily produce a result. Whereas it looked at all three emails, it looked at all the sales order which were received, and then now it's consolidating into a tabular format for us, that okay, you have received three emails for approval and for processing these sales order, right? So we received that, and after that, the autopilot also kind of we are giving a system prompt, whereas we know that these emails has incoming emails where it has come for me to approval, and now I want to send an approval, right? So can you write an email approving all these into one single email, so that way it can be sent out for the processing. So now autopilot works with you, read the information which was previously generated from your emails for the sales quotation, and then probably creating an email where you can on a single button click send that email out to the with the approval, so that way it can be processed further for the processing. And now the agent is taking over and probably sending that email for you in the background. And once the email send process complete, we'll momentarily see on the screen that the approval has been sent out, and it will also show quickly on our email box that this approval has been sent. And this is just an example like how we created, but it can be, the process design varies based on like how you would be designing for your system. And once that is complete, now we want to extract that information from the PDF document for a specific quotation number, where because we want to start posting one by one. So one of the quotation number we start with, and it does identify that, okay, there is a process automation which does exist, which can review that quotation and probably read the information, and then convert that into a SAP understandable format, and which will be make us ready to post. So it is the autopilot is doing all that work in the background. And I mean, while we designing, we did all the context setting, context and knowledge base created for that agent, plus also the prompting were defined for this agent. And now it has completed the part of identifying that and making sure that all the required input fields are there, and which it does exist into the process. And now we are looking at by having that information ready, now we are ready to do that posting into the SAP. And that is where like now it is kind of making sure that all the data is accurate and which is required by the SAP field for the posting, right? And now we just quickly said, okay, can you create the sales order based on this information, right? And now it understand, okay, I can definitely create that sales order, but in order to do that, there is a robotic process automation which has been already created, and either it is your Salesforce or the SAP or probably any other CRM, it will go ahead and probably launch. And for us, like we use the SAP, and it does say that, okay, this is the process which does exist, and we say run this process, and then it is taking all that information, launching the SAP, and executing to create that sales order based on the order defined and the organization which user belong to, right? I mean, a lot of information which is extracting from the user as well, right? Where from for which user it is. And it is completing the sales order creation part for all the items which were defined into that approved quotation, which were received and approved, which we saw earlier. So it is completing that sales order creation process, and momentarily it will click on the save, and which will generate the sales order confirmation number for us. So that is complete, and we should see momentarily the sales order number being generated in the SAP. And now I think that's completed, 1809, which was generated. And that information will be now robot is reading that information, and it will pass it back to the autopilot agent. And here it will quickly confirm us that, okay, your sales order has been created. This is your sales order confirmation number, and we created this quick summary of the order. And now we want to say, okay, can you leverage the same email agent to send a confirmation email to the buyer saying, okay, your sales order which you requested has been created into the SAP system, so which is approved but also created on the SAP system, and it is now completed that process by sending an confirmation will email with the confirmed sales order number, whereas it can be referenced for further processing. And I mean, same process could have been extended further, whereas you can take it further to your delivery and packaging and invoicing side of it. But with the considering the time, we wanted to limit the demo to showcase the capability. And now it is sending that email with the same agent, which previously did work of sending an email. And that is now being sent. And we receive the confirmation email saying, okay, this order has been created and you have the confirmation email. So that's kind of overall presenting how the agent and the human and the robot can work together with the autopilot. But as kind of explained earlier, this process is certainly can be executed in unattended mode, whereas you human don't have to interact with the autopilot, and agent and the robot working in unattended mode in the background. And I'll hand it over to Ross for agentic testing, as we discussed initially, right? I mean, that whole UiPath platform offering and working with the autopilot is not only changing the behavior of a human automation agent working on the automations process automation side, but the same behavior is being replicated on the test automation side. And I'll probably let Ross talk about more. Over to you, Ross.
Great. Thanks, Amit, and thanks for that. The demo's really great. And you're right, as much as agentic AI is impacting business process automation and intelligently handling a lot of these critical business processes, there's also a significant impact that it's having in the area of testing. In fact, a recent survey from the IDC shows across the polling of different professionals within the software delivery landscape, the majority of folks are seeing the impact of this happening within testing. And we'll talk about that, but you can imagine why, as we've already started to make some inroads with automation in terms of testing. Much more is possible now that we incorporate these LLMs, the ability of leveraging agents, and in order to kind of explain that a little bit more, I wanted to kind of show you a timeline of how we've seen this evolve, those of us who have been in the industry for a while. So if we talk about the past, present, and future of enterprise testing, you can see there are several areas that compose the test effort. And as we look back, originally all of these things in terms of the generation of and execution of test cases, the establishment of test coverage, the ability to generate test data, remediation and root cause analysis, environment management reporting. All of these things have been originally started as manual, but as we started to enter the age of automation, we got some real lifts in some of these areas, specifically in terms of test case execution, test data generation, some environment management and reporting, end-to-end automation. We started to see some real gains made in terms of automation, not being able to necessarily fully automate it, but we really got a lot of benefit out of being able to automate some or most or parts of these areas. But as we look ahead to what is right before us, as we look into the future and start to see how agentic capabilities and AI can really impact what's going on in the area of testing, we see significant impact to all of these areas when it comes to how agentic can change our lives. And every single one of these areas, based upon what we are seeing, is being impacted by agentic AI, by the ability to create these agents to help work with robots to build and generate test cases, to execute them and report on them, to manage data and environments, to do intelligent remediation and root cause analysis, and to build full end-to-end automation suites to run across the enterprise. So it's really, really cool to see how it's happening. And so what does this look like within what we're doing is in terms of TSP and how we're leveraging the UiPath platform? There are just some really key things that are going on. The first of those is we are working with clients on developing end-to-end testing scenarios for SAP S4 migrations, as well as for system upgrades and any kind of changes that are being managed within your enterprise environments. And so the UiPath's Test Cloud and the full suite of test applications, we're using those to help deliver these solutions to our clients in the area of testing, and making a significant impact in time reduction and cost savings in the improvement of quality within this ecosystem. In addition to that, just as Amit had mentioned, UiPath Autopilot, a powerful platform. There's a full suite of tools within that for testers specifically, which involve the ability to impact the design of tests, the creation of tests. So it'll actually help you generate tests based upon your requirements and then manage those tests. And so there's some really, really powerful tools available to help the testers within this ecosystem to be able to better drive and manage their testing. And then finally, specific to enterprise testing, UiPath's change impact analysis is the ability to take a look at changes that are coming through your software development lifecycle in an SAP environment, to analyze those changes, to see how those changes are going to impact your production environment, to give you the ability to ask certain questions like, what is being changed? How should we test this? Where are our risks? Where is our current test coverage? How does this change look in terms of the results of testing? All of these things are available through change impact analysis to be able to help drive more intelligently the testing of an SAP change before it goes to production. And so it's really, really exciting. And so with that, Amit, I'm going to pass it back to you in case unless there are any questions specific to testing.
Sure. No, thank you, Ross. And that's, I mean, the behavior change which we are seeing with the agentic AI impacting on the process design and solution design. I mean, definitely testing is the other area, as you talked about, is going to see how the legacy test automation and probably the approach of legacy test automation would change, and leverage newer capability to kind of help further define those test data or test cases or test requirements very quickly with help of agents. So very, very excited about this whole new upcoming things, and it will definitely transform the current human behavior of working on the process automation as well as test automation side. And I mean, that's where kind of we wrap here, but there is a definitive guide for agentic automation. If you want to download, you can feel free to scan that QR code. You can download those documents, which kind of help you further elaborate on some of the information. We are open to take some of the questions now. And I think what we see, and one of the questions was like where we are already automation user or organization already have a UiPath as a customer. Does the change in the agentic AI and the agent will change my implementation of the current processes which we have implemented? So, I mean, that's a very good question. And that is what we are seeing, like a lot of people asking, and very, very important to understand that the agentic AI, and probably we saw in some of the demos that the robots and the agents are going to work together. And as Omar was saying that, okay, the agents will be the smaller pieces of the whole process. It cannot be like whole process. So we are not, agentic AI will not be replacing your whole process automation, but it will be adding value to your processes, whereas it is able to take decision based on the context grounding which has been, and the knowledge which has been provided to it, and help your robot become more autonomously process things without depending on the end user. So it is a complement adding to what you already have into your ecosystem, and it will not be an additional burden for you to kind of go back and change how you have done your implementation. Any other questions you guys seen, Ross and Omar?
Yeah, Amit, there's one in there from Alex Dixon that maybe you or Omar want to address specifically.
And what is that question? I cannot read it.
His question, and there's maybe a couple of them in series, is how do you view agentic automation affecting operating models? How do you view advising clients on this, as many of the agents are extensions of app players that also have processing power similar to traditional RPA?
Certainly, and that's a very good question, because and that is where, like, in your whole operating model, when we set up for the automation, I mean, same thing what UiPath has done is like they have created agent orchestration, whereas all of your agents will be listed there. And it is certainly important to follow that whole object oriented model. I mean, the basic concept of the object oriented model is like you are not repeating same thing for the every agent, right? I mean, you are creating those unique agents into your orchestration or ecosystem, so that way those agents can work with multiple processes and multiple variety of the robots in the background. So the idea of how we define that operating model for the automation, the idea would be similar. It will just expand and add more value into it, but the concept of the operating model would be remain same. But just adding kind of how you define the agent, that concept need to be changed a little bit.
Yeah, I'll add to that also, Amit, that something that we're foreseeing, or I personally foresee as important as this paradigm shift of agentic automation takes place, is there is an element of consolidation. Like when we're thinking about all those different agents from all those different vendors that are going to act as like the de facto kind of like API interaction layer with those applications going forward, there needs to be some kind of integration with the IT and the business analysis function, because really that's the whole purpose of having BPMN diagramming as the entry point for this end-to-end workflow. Your business analysts understand the process outcomes and they understand the process flow better than most people in the organization. So having them dictate what the flow should look like and what the systems that belong to that workflow is and what the outcome that is expected as a goal from this is going to then enable the IT teams and the RPA developers to create highly specialized agents that work together in tandem and learn through interaction with humans in the loop to facilitate that end-to-end, agentic automation. There's no shortage of agents out there. Every vendor is going to produce their own agents, and we're going to be embarking on a new wild, wild west of like, how do we get all this stuff to work together? And that's why agentic orchestration and Maestro provides all the capabilities to make sure that you're able to diagram stuff, operate it, monitor, and optimize as you learn from how things are working and what needs to be improved, week over week, month over month, quarter over quarter.
Right. And that's the beauty of, I mean, how you are able to work with multiple system agents with the master, right? I mean, you define in your workflow, they are doing their own role into their own system, but with the UiPath platform, I think you are able to have and do the governance for everything together for your process. And that leaves us to last 1 minute for one or two more questions we can take quickly. Okay, I think with that we can wrap this up. All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope this was informative, and we are happy to kind of give you more information as needed. And if you have any specific use case or trying to understand where exactly in my current ecosystem with the UiPath, the whole agentic AI can play and work together, we are very happy. I mean, these are our kind of contact information. So feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to support you to further discuss and kind of understand how you can leverage and address. But if you have any very specific use case, you are trying to understand, okay, how my different agents or probably in my particular process it can work, we are happy to touch base and probably discuss the details with you as well. Very excited. I mean, this is UiPath is going to public launch, I think, end of April, right, Omar?
For agentic orchestration, yes, April is the GA date. I think Agent Builder will be late April, early May. That's the plan for now.
Awesome. But they are already available in the public preview. So if you want to take advantage to go back and register and probably start using by yourself. I think that will give you a lot of benefit. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all.
Thank you, Amar. Thank you, Ross.
Thanks.